Ready. So the name of this class is Rhythms of Practice and Wrap Up. So, all right. I want to go over, so we've already gone over the techniques that we covered. But now I want to start going over the rest of the class and add a little bit more to it. So firstly, we learned about daily informal practice. So informal practice in daily life. In many ways, I think of daily formal practice as the means to potentiate your daily informal practice. And so let me explain why that is. So none of us here, as far as I know, are monks, right? So we're all lay people. We all have busy lives. We're engaged in the world. And that means that we're going to spend more time out of formal meditation than informal meditation on a daily basis. So if you really want to get the benefits of meditation, of mindfulness, you need to do a lot of it. And so the big chunk of time that you have is not formal practice. So I think for many householders, it's helpful to think of, okay, I'm going to do my daily sit. And then I'm going to kind of like take that momentum of mindfulness, that momentum of meditation, and kind of drag it into my day and try to do as much daily life meditation as possible. Doing daily life mindfulness was of tremendous benefit for me. And also in the early years of meditation, I was very anxious, very depressed often, and I was too restless to do a lot of formal sitting. So I did a lot of daily life practice, and that's where I got a lot of the transformation that I managed to realize. So firstly, and I've mentioned this before, but we need to see benefits of the practice. Now, obviously, we don't want to encourage a kind of a greedy clinging, like, oh, I need these benefits. But no, in a very realistic way, look, you need to see the benefits of your practice. Now, where do you see the benefits? You might see them in the meditation itself. It might be enjoyable occasionally, but I think we've gone over how you can't expect the meditation to be blissful and easy all the time. A lot of the times it's just like, lifting weights at the gym, right? It hurts. There's muscle fatigue. And you don't go into the gym expecting that the muscle fatigue and strain is necessarily always enjoyable, although maybe at some point it becomes, right? So that's the wrong metric. That's the wrong way to judge the practice. The right way to judge the practice is how much transformation is there for me in daily life? Am I kinder? Am I at greater ease? Am I more patient with myself, with others? Is there this kind of compassionate disposition? And so, and also, is there awareness? Am I actually making contact with what is, or am I lost in stories? So this is kind of an interesting way of thinking about informal daily life practice. By doing informal practice, we kind of cheat. So this is another acceptable cheat, Chris. So you're taking the state of meditation and bringing it and dropping it into your daily life. And that's the place to see if you're improving. So you're like forcing the benefits. Kind of an interesting way to think of it. Okay, good. All right, so moving on. Something else I'd like to mention is the more diversely you practice, the better. And what does that mean? So what I mean is you want to practice when you're tired, when you're at ease, when you're well rested, when you're restless, when you're happy, when you're depressed, when you're sad, when you're walking, lying, standing, or seated, when you're very uncomfortable, when you're in pain, when you're at great comfort and great ease, and also at different times of the day and the night. The more, if you only practice, okay, so let's think of it this way. So meditation, in a sense, is like a stressor, much like lifting weights, right? You stress the muscle, and then it reacts positively to that stress by building up greater strength. So much in a similar way, we can think about meditation, that you kind of you ask, you make a request of the body mind. It's like, we're going to be mindful now. And then, you know how it is, it's a struggle, but you start getting better and better at it through time. And so if you only make the request in very particular moments, then the body mind won't feel as much, there won't be this pressure to adapt. Whereas if you keep requesting of yourself to be meditative, to be mindful at every moment of your life, then your body mind will figure out a way to adapt to that and become mindful when you're stressed, be mindful when you're at ease, be mindful when you're lying, mindful seated, et cetera, et cetera. You get the drift. All right, good. Something else I'd like to mention is that, so for some reason I'm kind of stuck on this whole strength training analogy. So with strength training, let's just say you work out pretty hard. After, let's say, 90 minutes in the gym every day, you're hitting major diminishing marginal returns, and those diminishing marginal returns quit being returns and become increasing marginal damage. Like if you keep working out at a certain point, you're actually going to damage your body. So what's cool about meditation is you don't hit diminishing marginal returns. And you might think, oh, great, the benefits are linear. The more I practice, the better it is. Or at least the benefits stay steady. No, actually, it's not that way. It's the mirror opposite of the diminishing marginal returns. It is exponential, the benefits. So, and let me explain to you why it is that the more you meditate, the more benefit you get from that same unit of meditation. And for the purposes of discussion, we'll define a unit of meditation as, like, say, 10 minutes of formal practice. So at the beginning of your practice, you struggle and you're barely meditating. Whereas after years of practice, you're an expert meditator. And then you drop into a deep state that is more transformative. So let's say that same hour of meditation, 5 years into meditation, is actually more beneficial than that same hour of practice at the beginning of your practice. So what that means is you keep, the benefits actually compound and get greater and greater over time. This is fantastic news. So keep up with your practice, keep going. So, all right, here we're going to talk about ways to support the practice. Firstly, actually, some of this we've already covered, but I'll just go ahead and reiterate it. So I want to talk about retreat. Retreat practice is really great. I actually offer I offer virtual retreats as well. They're free / donation basis as usual. And there's a few members of this class that have partaken. So retreat practice is actually a different beast. Like you really get a deep immersive experience, and it's not that you simply meditate more, but the meditation is actually different. Maybe some of you that have done retreat may recognize that might ring true for you. Also, by doing retreat practice, you actually gain a sense of what is even possible. Like what's possible with meditation. If you're just meditating 30 minutes, 5 times a week, you're going to get major benefits, but you don't even know what a powerful tool meditation is before you've done retreat. Okay, good. Okay, Sangha and community. This we've basically gone over. I'm just going to reiterate it very quickly. So get Dharma friends. I mean, you can send out in the chat, hey, I'd like to make friends with somebody. I want a meditation partner. You can do that right now if you like. Also, we have that Telegram group. Okay, and then I also spoke to this earlier. Sangha does not have to be a one-stop shop. You can have various needs met by different groups. That was how I was about it. I was very opportunistic about it. So, some groups, you're going to be you're going to be on the same wavelength in terms of like discussing practice. Like maybe this is, maybe this group is a good group for that. I think we're pretty frank and pretty open about the way we discuss practice, if that's what you're into. Another group might offer affordable retreats that are nearby. Great, then go do those. Another group, maybe the Dharma talks are fantastic and you really resonate with the Dharma talks, but they don't offer any retreats and they don't discuss practice openly between each other. Okay, not a problem. And then something else I wanted to mention is volunteer opportunities. Volunteering for a Sangha or a community is really, really beneficial. One of the most, how to put this? One of the most impactful periods of practice or practice experiences that I've ever had in my practice was about 3 years ago. I went and volunteered for 3 days of a 10-day Goenka retreat. And something about that experience really helped me. Firstly, there's something about it that I think helped me with my own generosity, which is healing, obviously. Then it also helped me simply take better care of myself. Like I learned to enjoy doing menial work in a way that I hadn't before. And then I noticed that when I got back, I was a better housekeeper and I kept my life in a little bit better order just from that experience of volunteering. So I'd really recommend volunteering. And then as usual, go with what works. If a certain place works for you, just go for it. Don't overthink it. I'll also mention making financial contributions to Sangha and community. I think that doing so is good. I think it's wholesome. It helps support the teachings. And, you just don't want to overextend yourself or feel pressured. I think it's kind of a problem if you feel pressured. Anyway, okay. All right, more about getting support. So, keep listening to Dharma talks live or on the web, however. Keep reading books. It's helpful to get a formal teacher. I had for 4.5 years weekly meetings with my teacher, my primary teacher, and then thereafter for 1.5 years I had weekly meetings with my next teacher. It was a big help to me. I think that when you have personal meetings, I think there's just something nice about it. There's a connection there. Also, you're going to fall into the ditch in the practice like you do with everything. And if you have a mentor that really knows you and your practice, you can get out of the ditch a little bit more quickly. But of course, you don't want to check your discernment at the door. Having a teacher is not an excuse to drop your critical mind, your discriminating wisdom. No, you need to bring your full discriminating wisdom to a teacher and your interactions with him or her. And a good teacher should encourage your own discriminating wisdom. It doesn't mean that he or she might not challenge it at times. What else to say about a teacher? You can definitely do the path without a teacher, especially given all the information on the web, but I would still recommend it. All right, that's all I can think of at this moment. Oh, yeah, I know what I want to say. Meditation teachers, maybe some of their wisdom and knowledge kind of spills out into other related subject areas, maybe like mundane psychology. If a meditation teacher has really done their work, then likely they should also have a little bit of insight into related areas, but that's as far as it goes. You can't necessarily get relationship advice from your spiritual teacher or like financial advice, legal advice. And if if your spiritual teacher is offering that, you probably should cease and desist. All right, okay, good enough. Okay, giving support. So this might not seem terribly obvious to you all, but teach what you've learned here to others. If you're finding something interesting, teach it to someone else. It's one of the best ways to thoroughly learn something, and you can help benefit another person. And moreover, and that's what I would call as like explicit teaching. But then there's also implicit teaching. Now, what does that mean? It means this quality of being a role model. So if your practice is deepening, if you're, healing yourself, growing in wisdom, then you will necessarily become somewhat of a role model to others. And that is an important form of informal teaching. And so aspire that your practice change you beneficially such that you can be that way for others. Good. All right. Integrating. So meditation, well, let me just back off and say meditation practice is fantastic, but meditation practice is also not a substitute for a good diet, for sleep, for healthy relationships, for a career, for education, etc. And it is not a substitute, in my opinion, for doing, let's just call it like basic kind of Western psychological health maintenance practices. So like therapy, journaling, things like that. So here I want to mention that journaling is great. You can journal about your experience. It'll help you integrate what happens in your meditation. Also, psychotherapy is good. I recommend psychotherapy. I'm currently in psychotherapy. The next thing, and this is possibly one of the more important things that I have to say, you might want to write this down. When in doubt, do more heart practices. If things are a bit weird with your if things get weird with your insight practices, like let's say see, hear, feel, or even your concentration practices like the breath focus, just go back to doing metta. Metta is a very, very safe practice. The only thing I'd warn about it is it's not some sort of inducement to become a doormat. No, yeah, you want to develop loving kindness, friendliness, curiosity, openness, but you want to do it in such a way that it augments and complements your discerning wisdom, not an excuse to ignore your own discerning wisdom. Okay, good. Oh yeah, when in doubt, reach out, ask for help. I mean, if anybody has a problem in their path with meditation, you can always email me. So another point I wanted to cover here is keystone habit formation. So bringing mindfulness to what you are doing has a powerful transformative effect to that thing, and it can be anything, right? Also, let's look at this idea of commitment and consistency. If you can, you've all largely participated in this course, and not a single one of us have done a perfect job of it, right? But so there's this consistency, there's this momentum, and there's the way that the body mind is that we incline a certain direction, so we're inclining in a positive way. So really let this be the keystone of your life. Like you'll see, oh my gosh, I'm taking good care of my mind in this meditative way. So then that might encourage you to go to psychotherapy and take good care of your mind in terms of your psychological health. It might encourage you to maintain a healthy sleep-wake cycle. It might encourage you to maintain your physical fitness, because after all, you can do see, hear, feel, or auto run, or whatever it is, in any physical sport or exercise. All right, good. So something I think we covered trigger practice. That's like kind of bringing, let's just say, see, hear, feel to when we're triggered. I just want to reiterate that as one of the most, like one of the highest ROI, return on investment practices. Man, set the intention now. Why don't we all, as a meditation, right now, so stretch up, settle in, and then set the intention. When I am triggered, I will engage in a meditative practice to help me metabolize what's coming up and help to stay conscious in those moments. And now I want you to envision it happening. So you see yourself getting triggered. Maybe you're talking to your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your wife, your coworker, your boss. You find it deeply triggering. And then you remember, aha, I'm going to bring mindfulness as this. So you see the image thoughts arising. You feel the body tension. You can feel the emotions arising. You notice your mental state. Maybe there's a mental state of hatred, of greed, of jealousy, of confusion. And you just note that and you open up to it. You allow it to be. And maybe even there's so much mindfulness and consciousness around it that you can drop the afflictive mental state and substitute in a mental state of loving kindness, of openness and curiosity. You notice your boss is talking to you in a certain way, you find it triggering, and then you say, you know what, maybe I don't have to keep engaging this mental state, maybe some sort of aversive, fearful mental state. Maybe I can engage rather a mental state of openness and curiosity, of metta, loving kindness towards him and what he's saying. And maybe if I view it that way, what he's saying is in fact informative and important and not threatening. So reiterate that intention now. So when I'm triggered, I'll engage a mindfulness practice such to skillfully open up to what is happening in that moment. Okay, good. All righty. So moving on. So volume. I wanted to talk about the volume of practice. So, and I'm getting this word, this phrase from Dan Brown, tremendous Western meditation teacher. He talked about the odometer approach to enlightenment. So, I mean, it's good to do good, high quality practice, but also poor quality practice is better than nothing. And the more practice you do, the more the changes are. So I just want to kind of endorse that practicing more is generally better. Also, that brings me to a very important point, motivation. Always do whatever you need to do to extract motivation from your practice or extract motivation from any and everywhere. And we'll do a little bit of a guided meditation around that here shortly. Good. Okay. The next thing I want to talk about is doubt. Doubt is it's a very common hindrance on the meditative path. So, okay, here we're going to do a guided meditation. It'll just take us a minute. So stretch up, pushing the crown of the head up towards the ceiling. And now reflect on the last 10 weeks of your life and see if you can see how you've benefited from your practice. And bring up examples. So I'll give you a minute to do that. What benefits have I seen in my life or in other people's lives from my practice over the last 10 weeks? Has there been an improvement in functioning? Has there been an improvement in maybe self-talk, in your relationships, in your ability to focus? So reflecting on how you've benefited is one of the antidotes to the hindrance of doubt. Now we're going to do another meditation that's related. I want you to think of people that you know or that you know of who transform their lives positively through meditation. And if you don't know of any, you can always reflect on the Buddha, who tremendously changed his life for the positive, for the better, through meditation. Okay, and still in this meditative state, I'm going to tell a quick story. This story is from Thanissaro Bhikkhu, a Western Theravadan monk. And I forget if it was I think it was with Ajahn Fuang, one of his teachers. He went to him and he says, "Oh, Ajahn, I'm just so amazed by your serenity, by your wisdom, etc. And Ajahn Fuang corrected him. He said, you think you see me, but what you actually see is the practice. So it's not the individual, it's the fruit of the practice. So we can all reflect on that for a moment. And that practice you can do, and you can achieve that same level of transformation. Now I'd like to do a different imagination exercise. I want you to think about all the benefits that you'll experience and all the benefit that those that have contact with you will experience if you keep up your meditation practice. So just go through a list of benefits that you think that you'll experience. And now feel this sense of accomplishment, like it's already done. Maybe you can feel a sense of joy, bliss at these positive changes. And just take that in for a moment. Imagine how you'll be at much greater ease with others, greater ease with yourself. There'll be greater wisdom, greater present moment awareness. Really see that. And now I want you to imagine your life without your continuing to meditate. And here, this is not about fear. This is just about discriminating wisdom and discernment. So imagine that you quit meditating. And again, this is zero shame or guilt, any of that. It's just like, oh, okay, you might not have the same benefits. Life would probably be a little bit harder. You have a little bit less emotional resilience, possibly a little bit less wisdom. It's not the end of the world, but it would be preferable probably to keep meditating. But so go ahead and think about that for a minute. And now drop that and go back to imagining what your life will be like if you maintain your practice. And it's not maintain it perfectly. That's not the idea. It's just maintain it roughly. And actually let a smile come to your face as you contemplate these wholesome benefits to you and to others. Okay, good. We'll start wrapping that up. But before we do, really have this sense of accomplishment. Relish this wholesome accomplishment of having continued with your practice into the future. Oh, it's so good. All right, great. So now we just have one or two more things to cover before we wrap up the lecture. So this is I'm going to do a very brief guided meditation on bodhicitta, which means awakening mind. Sometimes it can be said to be the desire to awaken for the benefit of all beings. And it is said that the best way to benefit others is by awakening yourself. So go ahead and stretch up, settle in, and now reflect on how all you have ever wanted is happiness. It's so clear, it's so obvious. All I have ever wanted is happiness. And now, I want you to reflect on how all beings are just the same as you, down to amoebas and bacteria. All that any and everybody wants is just happiness, ease, peace, health, well-being. And to just recognize your own desire for happiness and how you're in this with all beings, in as much as that you're all after the same thing, that already points at bodhicitta, at this desire to awaken for the benefit of others. And now think about how if you were deeply, deeply awake, how that would have such a strong impact on your experience and on your happiness. You'd be happier. And with that wisdom that you would have, you could be there for others in a meaningful way, help them, because there would be compassion, kindness, and wisdom. And if you like, set the intention to awaken for the benefit of all beings. And we can stay in this meditation, but I'll make a couple of notes that are important to reflect on. So, reflecting on how awakening for the benefit of others is good and coming back to that motivation is really a well thought out, let's call it cheat. It's like a real smart hack. One of the problems with spiritual practice is that it can seem kind of selfish. And in a certain way, it is. But if we come back to and really manifest in the world this intention of bodhicitta, so kind of using our practice such that it benefits others, we circumvent that major trap on the spiritual path. And also, there's this lightness and levity to being concerned with others. Whereas there's something heavy and difficult about being self-concerned. And so if we can simply substitute the concern from others, the concern for others, our path unfolds more quickly and easily. Okay, good.